It was laid out, but there was a meeting about to be called. It was time. Applepaw shifted around, looking at her leader. She then stared around. The dark was very unnerving to her. As the rest of the cuts finally entered camp after long patrols, Bronze finally spoke. May all cats old enough to run in the moors gather around for a clan meeting, he called. Everyone gathered. Applepaw stayed put, close to the rock near the empty deputy spot. The spot Loud Whisper used to sit at. Every cat was curious. What did Bronze have to say? I'm aware of the concerns with the loss of our deputy, Loud Whisper. He spoke in a soft, saddish tone. But we must remain strong. We must unite with my strength, as well as try to grieve from this saddening news. He dipped his head. As the other cats followed, Applepaw didn't, staring at the same spot, the empty spot where Loud Whisper sat. It also comes to my worries that some apprentices have lost mentors. Their knowledge would not improve if so, he informs the cats. Please step forward if this involves you. Applepaw dipped her head and stepped forward. Looking at the ground, Seedpaw followed, not dipping her head. Warriors who may wish to train, step forward, he called. Rhododendron hiss. You may train Seedpaw. I trust you can pass down all of your knowledge onto them. Applepaw watched as the older apprentice gained her new mentor. Seedpaw had her lost too. Applepaw still felt jealous. Was she really last? Typical. Lastly, Lunarbite shall pass down their knowledge to Applepaw, Bronstar finally announced. She looked around, then turned her head behind her. There he was in all his glory. She turned to the Tom, staring at his ugly colored eyes. They looked like dried kelp. She stepped over, reaching up with a struggle, to touch her nose to the taller cat's. She was small, but that was because he was much bigger. Lunarbite's nose wrinkled, disgusted. His pout in the darkness hid the expression well, though. Nice to see you in person, Applepaw. Lunarbite tried to fake a smile, but Applepaw left the meeting early for the apprentice den, ignoring him. She was tired. She deserved some rest. As she entered the den, she got to her nest. That was all the way in the back of the den. She sat, then lay down, falling asleep. Hopefully she didn't have nightmares. When she woke again, she yawned widely. No nightmares. Perfect. She left the den, looking around. It was early in the morning, but she preferred that, if she wanted to get chores done. She went into the clearing. She noticed the elder's den where Blackfoot would sleep. She went to go check in and see what she could do for the old Tom. Blackfoot already seemed to have fallen asleep so quickly despite just waking up. Psst, she whispered. Blackfoot? His ear twitched before he opened his cloudy eyes, which were looking at the apprentice. Yes, Applepaw? He calmly mewed. Do you need any bedding? She asked. He gave a gentle smile with a purr. Very kind of you. I could do with some more moss if you don't mind. His tone was of thankfulness for the younger she-cat's help. She just simply nodded and padded off to the medicine den to grab the moss. As she entered, she was greeted by the smell of herbs and web whiskers sleeping in her bed. She mewed the herbalist's name. The cat's eyes would flutter open, her tail flicking. Oh, yes? She'd wonder, her head tilting to the side softly. I need to fetch some moss for Blackfoot's bedding, she informed. May I have some? I'll bring you some more later, she requested with a falsous promise. She blinked the sleep out of her bright blue eyes, mewing, of course, before she reached out for the moss on the shelves. She thanked the she-cat with a small mew before leaving. The medicine cat called out, Make sure it isn't damp! Applepaw ignored her, though. She had a job to do. When she made her way to the elder's den, Northpaw was leaving a mouse to him. She muffled through the moss in her maw, stepping in, standing next to the dark blue adolescent beside her. Thank you, Northpaw. The elder dipped his head. As he grabbed the mouse, Northpaw left, mumbling something. Applepaw figured it was just him saying you're welcome to the old cat. Welcome back, Applepaw, the elder greeted, but the apprentice took no time and crouched down to work on the bedding of the nest, removing the old bedding with some new. Blackfoot moved out of the way to let Applepaw work as he fed on his mouse. She squeaked suddenly. Ah! She hissed, lifting her paw. A thorn was in Blackfoot's bed, now embedded in her paw pad. She used her teeth to remove it, easy as it was. Are you okay? He gruffly asked, with concern. Someone was trying to prank you. She threw the thorn aside into the bushes. Her tail flicked. She grabbed the moss and worked on the bedding again. Once again, the Tom gave a rusty chuckle. He was just being pranked. As she worked, she wondered, do you think Loud Whisper left before, she paused for a bit, reminiscing. She was a great prankster. She giggled about it before it faded into her sadness. She sighed through the moss, continuing to work. Blackfoot realized she probably did. He nodded. I assume you miss her dearly? He questioned gently, not wanting to push the cat. She paused, then nodded. Her mentor was quite the jokester around her clan. Quickly she got up, not wanting to speak on the loss anymore. It's done. She moved out of the way to let Blackfoot see. I'm sure she's making great pranks on those Star Clan warriors. He tried to reassure her before moving to his refurbished nest. Thank you, Applepaw. You'll make a fine warrior one day, he complimented. She would be very proud. Applepaw nodded, though didn't know if she could quite agree. Need anything else? She asked, needing a distraction. The bird and paw tried to enter with a rabbit, but left, seeing the two were busy chit-chatting and didn't want to disrupt. I'm fine, thank you. He tipped his head. She did so as well, then left. He stopped outside the medicine den. I'm back, she mewed softly, waiting for Web Whisker to let her in. I'll place this down, she said simply, stepping in and putting the moss on the shelf herself. Notice the strange herbs on the high top shelf. Yew, nightshade, azalea, many herbs sat on it, making Applepaw confused and curious. She stepped away, not daring to touch Web Whisker's herbs, knowing she wouldn't be happy. She took a quick glance at the leader and some loner, but she moved on anyway. He sniffed the air. Her mentor had left. She flicked her tail, heading to Bronze Star, looking for something to do. Bronze Star patted it over to the warrior who wasn't doing any patrols, ignoring Applepaw completely. Is there anything I could do? She quickly coughed as the leader just walked past. She went away too. That was rude. She saw her mentor in the clearing. Bronze started chatting with him again. She went over, wanting to see if he would take her training. He crouched up, side-eyeing his apprentice. May I go out camp for hunting? She requested. Oh, you know how to? He had small annoyance in his expression, trying his best to hide it. Yes, Loud Whisper taught me. She started coughing at the mentioning of her former mentor. Loud Whisper. He tisked before nodding. Sure, need any assistance? He asked, but out of some context of not wanting to. No, I can do it. She left without another say, not wanting to hear protests or anything. Applepaw dropped the squirrel into the pile of prey before staring around. Everyone was soaked from the harsh rain. She hissed. She couldn't hunt anymore. She went to the nursery, hoping she could help the queens. Snowflake, she peeked inside, greeting the nursing tea as her little ones pranced around. Do you need any assistance? She wondered. Anything you need? She stepped inside. The kids stared at her with big wide eyes. One patted over to her, curious. She looked back at the small one. Obligate waved. She looked back at the silver she with a nod. Can I stay and play at least? She insisted. I need to get my mind off Loud Whisper, she shuffled. It is late. They should have a nap first. I apologize, she explained. Papa nodded, then looked at the other queen. Anything you need, May? The queen answered back, her kit nuzzling up to her. Not right now, but thank you, she purred. Papa left the den with a nod. It was time for rest anyway. She saw Blackfoot traversing outside of his den, alerted. He could get sick in weather like this. She called out his name and went over, concerned. The Tom stopped in his tracks right outside the spare den. He turned to the apprentice. Hello, young one, he purred. You should head to your den, she requested. I don't want you getting sick. He blinked before meowing. I'm sleeping in the spare den, he explained. The elder's den is not rainproof as it looks, he chuckled. Heading to the den, she mewed. Good night, before sprinting off to her den. As she stepped in, she noticed Laburnum Paw was in her nest. She coughed loudly. Laburnum Paw. Her tail started lashing. She was irritated. That's my bed, she pointed out. Sunpaw's eyes opened. The commotion of Applepaw caught her attention. Applepaw, it's not that big of a deal. Just choose a different bed, Northpaw commented. She ignored Northpaw, clearing her throat loudly. Laburnum Paw, she shouted. Laburnum Paw turned as she woke. What? Applepaw cut her off. Get out of my bed. Sunpaw turned. Some other apprentices did too. Laburnum Paw yawned, groggy from just waking up. This is your nest? She mewed. Applepaw nodded. Yes, she snapped. Northpaw sighed. At least stop being so loud. Sorry, I didn't know. Laburnum Paw stood up, shaking her pelt, before finding another bed. She turned to Northpaw. This is my bed, she hissed through gritted teeth, stepping into her nest yet again. Get a different nest, Sunpaw argued. You snooze, you lose, she rolled her eyes. Snooze, you risk being killed. She laid down, wanting to calm. You don't have to be so rude over a nest, just saying, Northpaw murmured. Applepaw just mocked, rolling her eyes before they shut, and she rested her head. Mosspaw woke up with a yawn as the others chattered. Sunpaw glanced up at Laburnum-paw, then at Applepaw. Her eyes dilated. She unliked Applepaw's tone. Applepaw prayed to StarClan that there will be no nightmares before she dove into sleep. Applepaw woke up. She didn't know if she could go out. She quickly decided to head for the elder's den, not wanting to get soaked. You realize Blackfoot took the spare den for rest. She snuck by a few cats to go see him, getting soaked in the rain. Blackfoot? She murmured into the spare den, worried. She went to go look for him. She checked the nursery where Sunpaw was with her mother and her two younger kit siblings. Did Blackfoot stop by? She asked. Sunpaw was talking about prey, lapping her tongue over Malachi's back. Old Bucket had stepped over to Applepaw, eyes wide with innocent curiosity. Applepaw ran out beside Applepaw into the heavy rain. Snowflake Garden called out for them. Applepaw turned to the kit, concerned. She noticed the sun rising up, probably what the little one wanted to see. Before she could say anything, the kit quickly came back inside and sat next to Sunpaw, who gazed at Applepaw, displeased. Applepaw, I can handle my own children well. Focus on your training, will you? The queen seemed a bit annoyed, but kept her soft tone. Sorry for bothering you, she mewed sadly. I'll check in later. She quickly left, a bit embarrassed. She walked into the clearing and found Blackfoot by the leader's den. She called it his name and trotted over, her fur soaking wet. Northpaw dropped a rabbit for the burnt elder, commenting something about hunger. Blackfoot struggled to focus on both of the two, mewing a hello and thank you. Blackfoot took the rabbit, Northpaw mewing no problem under his breath. Applepaw tried to insist. We need to get you into a den. You could get sick. I'll be fine. Let us listen to the leader's words. He tried to put the focus on Bronzestar instead. She nodded, looking up at the rock, sitting beside her friend. May all cats old enough to run in the moors gather around for a clan meeting, the tenant red-colored tabby called out. As the cats gathered, he spoke up once more. I am again aware of the situation regarding apprentices and their mentors, seeming as we are losing more warriors from attacks, he announced. A lot of the cats around murmured about ShadowClan and RiverClan. Those toad-eaters and fish breaths have been attacking WindClan for a while. Do they not know peace? With no mentors, no knowledge, so those who lack such a teacher step up. Blackfoot put his rabbit down and ate. I just found out Tarantula Web was killed by a RiverClan warrior, Northpaw murmured sadly. What? The elder was stunned and saddened for the apprentice. Applepaw just scoffed. Disgusting, she mocked. Those fish eaters can have it, she snapped with full confidence. Sunpaw, Northpaw, and Lubernumpaw all stepped up to get mentors. I'm lucky Lunarbite is still here. As the rain stopped, Applepaw shook her soaked pelt as she stood. Droplets flew everywhere. Blackfoot rolled his eyes with smiles, amused at her silly antics, before shaking himself as well. Droplets rolled off his burns. Applepaw's curly fur puffed up when it dried. What is perf? What is perf? It has also come to my attention that my warriors have been trespassing on Shadow Clan, Bronstar continued after all the apprentices got mentors. Our ancestors don't have great terms with them either. Please refrain from doing so, he requested. Cats murmured amongst themselves a bit about this, wondering who would do that. Shadow Clan, blah, she stuck her tongue out before standing up. Toad Eaters, she insulted loudly. Blackfoot raised a brow at Applepaw's outburst. She sat back down, sadly murmuring. They're the ones who got loud, whisper, she sighed. I wish I was stronger to protect her. She looked down, trying not to cry. As Bronzestar dismissed the clan, Blackfoot mused, and oh, in sadness. He sighed strongly, placing a burnt paw on Applepaw's shoulder. They will get what's coming, he reassured. StarClan and Karma are paw and paw. He tipped his head slightly. She turned her head slightly, sniffling, then she smiled, looking up at her friend. You should go try getting on a patrol. He flicked his tail with a purr. She didn't answer and walked over for patrols. She squeezed her way between two warriors, peering in at her mentor. Kinkajou Bagelface Takuma will attend one of the two hunting patrols. Bagelface shall lead it, he assigned, dismissing them. Applepaw almost had a small chuckle at the name Bagelface, but composed herself. She waited patiently for patrol, maybe a simple border checking with her mentor? She could only hope. As he called the last patrol, he then said, Everyone else, camp duties. He dismissed every other warrior, letting the last patrol leave for the day. She sighed as her mentor didn't call her. Maybe they were going to do simple training? She turned. Her mentor was already busy with the leader and some other cat. Lunarbite turned. He forgot about Applepaw. He paused awkwardly before speaking. Applepaw, why don't you... He thought for a bit. Have your own patrol, with your apprentice friends, of course. You could train for a bit, he suggested before turning back to Bronzestar. She nodded and went to find some random apprentices to join her. She saw Sunpaw and Ripplepaw. Maybe those too could join? She walked over to them. Sunpaw, she coughed awkwardly. One of her little siblings ran over already, probably wanting to play or something. Yes, she looked at the brown-and-white apprentice. Her eyes narrowed. Come with me for training patrol. Thunderbright said I could ask around. Applepaw shifted nervously. She didn't think Sunpaw liked her very much and probably wouldn't oblige. Sunpaw's tail flicked in short annoyance. Ripple can come too. She flicked her head. Sunpaw's head tilted. She raised a brow. Glancing at her mother for a second, she spoke. Your manners? She pressed on. Applepaw sighed. Please, she quietly pleaded. Sunpaw lowered her head. I suppose we can have use of extra training, she mused. Applepaw nodded. Wait for me at the entrance. I'll gather the other apprentices. Please, Sunpaw added. Please. Applepaw nodded reluctantly. Sunpaw grinned. Thank you. We will do so. She walked off without another say. She started searching around for more apprentices. He found Voidpaw calling her name once she stepped over. Training patrol, go to the entrance. I'll be there in a second, she said authoritatively before pausing. Please? She mewed. Huh? Voidpaw stood up. Applepaw groaned irritatedly. Just do it! She snapped. Lunarbite said so, she flaunted. Why me? Applepaw tried to respond, but as it got late, Voidpaw walked away. You can do that too. Applepaw was confused. What? She walked off. When she came to the entrance looking for Voidpaw, Dreamcloud showed up. What are you three doing? She interrogated. She noticed Labernapaw. She quickly called their name, fastly coming over to them. Hmm? Labernapaw turned. Applepaw quickly explained the patrol to Labernapaw, requesting they come before coughing out a please. She noticed Northpaw walking back to the apprentice den. Labernapaw hesitated before nodding. All right, let me put this spray away first. Applepaw followed Northpaw. She peered into the apprentice den. Voidpaw slipped in her bed, not attending the patrol. She rolled her eyes and left. She had enough cats anyway. Let's go, she flicked her tail authoritatively. As they started leaving, Sunpaw questioned, Where's a warrior? Applepaw paused and turned. Lunarbright never said to bring a warrior. Lunarbright never mentioned that. We can do this alone, she stated simply, trying to turn away once more. Applepaw agreed, sticking his tongue out at his sister. I know my way around if we get lost, she insisted. I can find our way back. Sunpaw knitted her brows, looking around the moorlands. Foxes will find us and maul us, she argued. They've been seen on the territory. And I can keep a lookout for foxes. I'm a good tracker, she flexed with a stretch. Labernapaw was tired, but not in agreement with Rippapaw. They had no idea why they had to go on this patrol, but they just went with it. Good enough to take on a fox? Sunpaw murmured, a bit giggishly but anxiously. We can train by the high rock. Applepaw pointed her muzzle. The one near the thunder path, that if you go across leads to the mountain, she recalled. Maybe we should just start calling you Applestar, Applepaw joked under his breath. We can just run away. I can catch a fox a mile away. She sneered it again. Labernapaw eyed the brown and white she. Let's not be too rambunctious. She ignored the orange cat. If anything happens, I'll be sure to catch the medicine cat, she promised. Sunpaw huffed out her nose. Her argument always seemed to go out into one ear and out the other. She just raked her claws at the ground and sighed, defeated. Let's go already! Ripplepaw whined, impatient. Applepaw nodded to Ripplepaw, flicking her tail to follow as she padded off. Once they got there, Applepaw asked, What do we want to practice first? I know a few things since I'm practically the oldest, she gogged on with a smirk. She was 10 moons, though Labernapaw was oh so 10 moons. By only a few moons, Ripplepaw commented. Labernapaw also added on, We're the same age, Applepaw. After talking a bit about things and a bit of arguing, Applepaw suddenly had an idea. Labernapaw, let me teach you something. Stepping towards the thunder path, the apprentice seemed concerned. Applepaw? My mentor taught me this sick trick, she giggled, remembering Loud Whisper's good old battle secrets. Demonstrated on me. Applepaw's tail flicked, getting ready to give them orders. The Brennapaw quickly backed away, hissing. Get away, it's dangerous, they warned, concerned, slightly laced in their tone. Monsters haven't passed in moons, it's fine, she purred, remembering Loud Whisper told her that they suddenly just stopped, leaving the path safe and empty. Not near the Thunderpath? They persisted. The Burnham-Paw, trust me, I've done this with my mentor and it was fine. She rolled her eyes. So worried over what? An abandoned Thunderpath? Do you have bees in your brain? They asked. They both didn't even notice the sun had risen. No, look, I'll show you. She stepped onto the road, turning back to look at Labubu-Paw. Ripplepaw and Sunpaw seemed to be hiding in the bushes, whispering about some things. Applepaw, are you okay in the head? Laburnum-Paw hissed harder than intended. Yes, look, I'll be fine. Applepaw felt pain. Laburnum-Paw and Ripplepaw were screaming something,
Applepaw, get
though
out
she
of the
couldn't tell what it
Thunderpath.
was.
Applepaw.
She coughed. I'm fine. See, she was distraught at the sight of her legs. Broken. She screamed. Ripplepaw and Laburnum-Paw ran over to see. Laburnum-Paw dragged her out of the road. Applepaw was still terrified. The Thunderpath was meant to be empty. Loud Whisper said so. Moons ago. Applepaw, what in Starclan is wrong with you? Laburnum-Paw cursed. Applepaw couldn't even tell if Laburnum-Paw was mad. Oh, that's not right, Sunpaw murmured. Fine, everything is but fine, Ripplepaw spat. She started crying. Little Whisper said it was okay, she insisted. Her voice hicced. What's happening? Voidpaw's voice sounded as she approached. Ripplepaw was informing Voidpaw. Lord Birdampaw focused on getting Applepaw back. Ripplepaw and Sunpaw helped. Applepaw just coughed. She closed her eyes. Suddenly they were at camp, heading back to the medicine den. Webwhisker was shocked at how many apprentices came in. Applepaw's ears were ringing from the sharp pain in her legs. Cats were chatting about. Couldn't understand a thing. Webwhisker shouted at the other apprentices to leave. They dropped Applepaw on the ground. She thudded sharply, breathing heavily. She sniffled, starting to cry again. The pain. She couldn't take it. It was coursing through her. It felt horrible. Webwhisker walked over, looking down. What happened? Webwhisker asked. Applepaw looked back at her legs. She couldn't recognize them anymore. Monster, she answered, sniffling as her eyes watered. Dreams streamed down her cheeks. The herbalist's pupils slit. Stay here, she'd whimper, moving back to the shelf. Sunpaw and Ripplepaw were mortified. Applepaw was crunched before them, crying. She didn't usually cry around others. Webwhisker came back with some bindweed and cobwebs mixed together. Ripplepaw murmured something to Sunpaw, and they left quickly. Webwhisker curled around Applepaw. Applepaw blacked out again. When she woke up, Flamepaw stood over her. Applepaw? She mewed. Applepaw raised her head, tired, in pain. What? She looked back at her legs, which were bandaged up. She gulped. The sight was less disturbing, but still. Are you okay? Apple Flamepaw mewed. I want Blackfoot, she replied simply, laying her head down, her eyes opened. Flamepaw came back with the elder and another warrior just behind. Applepaw lifted her head, looking at the burnt tom before her. Blackfoot shifted, finally stunting. Applepaw? He whispered. I'm sorry. Blackfoot, she apologized with a sniffle, trying not to cry again. Hey, it's okay. Blackfoot tried to comfort. Another warrior entered the den. This is my fault, she admitted. I thought she trailed off a bit. What happened? Blackfoot asked. I thought I could show the Burnham-Paw a thing Loud Whisper taught me, she confessed. The two warriors left, but another entered. Voidpaw also entered. She ran to the thunder path. She didn't snap back, not like usual. The Burnham-Paw then entered, hearing their name. That was a mouse-brained thing to do, but at least you're still alive, Blackfoot muttered. Applepaw, how are you holding up? The Burnham-Paw asked. Applepaw's voice hitched. I'm never going to be a warrior, she cried. Hey, you'll be a warrior, he placed a paw on the nest. You can be your own warrior, as I am my own, he reassured. Blackfoot left, the Burnham-Paw asking, Why didn't you listen when I told you to move? They said, curious. She didn't answer. She knew why. She just didn't want to say anything. What do I do? She curled up. Rest till you are better. Which may not happen, but trust me, you will be okay. Blackfoot tried to reassure. She nodded, tucking her head into herself. She needed some sleep. Blackfoot said something. Applepaw fell asleep before she could hear it. Applepaw woke up again to an empty den. She left, wanting to say good night to Blackfoot. When she was at the den, she sniffled. Blackfoot? She murmured. Her legs still dragged along. I wanted to say good night. She shook the tom gently. The odor was unresponsive, cold. It started to rain out. She moved his name again, concerned, as he didn't wake up like he usually did when she said his name. She put her paw to his pulse. Nothing. Eyes widened, she panicked. No, please, not him, not yet, just not now. No. She shook him more. This isn't funny, Blackfoot, she shouted, waiting for him to wake up. Scream, do anything, be himself, to show signs he was still there. It was silent. Only rain sounded. She started panicking, shaking more and more. Blackfoot, please! She cried out, screaming as loud as she could, basically waking the clan up. To no use. He was gone. The rain drizzled onto his bare flesh. He would have moved out to seek shelter like usual, though he didn't. She sobbed loudly, digging her face into his neck, begging StarClan for once. Not him, please. No, he was the only one left she was close to. Please, no, for once. Not him. Not him. Blackfoot's soul already went to StarClan, watching Applepaw sadly from afar with Loud Whisper. He was alone now. The screen suddenly went to black.